Stoicism is an ancient philosophy that teaches us how to navigate life with wisdom, emotional balance, and inner strength. Instead of being ruled by external events, Stoicism helps us focus on what we can control: our thoughts, actions, and responses. By embracing willingness, we learn to accept life as it is. Letting go of control frees us from unnecessary suffering. Accepting imperfection helps us develop patience and understanding. And taking responsibility for our emotions allows us to respond with clarity rather than being overwhelmed by our feelings. These principles aren't just abstract ideas, they are practical tools that can help us face any challenge with resilience and purpose. When we shift our mindset, we gain the power to find peace in any situation. In this video, we'll explore how these Stoic teachings can transform the way you experience life. Let's begin. Embrace willingness. Life is full of uncertainties, challenges, and situations that may not always align with our expectations. How we respond to these circumstances determines our level of peace, growth, and fulfillment. The principle of embracing willingness, accepting situations as they are, rather than resisting them, offers a profound way to navigate life with greater freedom and clarity. It allows us to shift our focus from frustration and helplessness to empowerment and purpose. One of the core ideas behind embracing willingness is the practice of acceptance. Often, people resist situations they dislike, whether it's a difficult job, a failed relationship, or an unforeseen setback. This resistance leads to emotional suffering, stress, and even a sense of stagnation. When we resist reality, we waste energy wishing things were different rather than focusing on solutions. By accepting situations as they are, we are not giving up or being passive. Instead, we are acknowledging reality so that we can take effective action. Acceptance does not mean approval, it simply means recognizing what is beyond our control and directing our efforts toward what we can change. This mindset brings inner peace, as we stop fighting against life and start working with it. Embracing willingness also involves keeping sight of our broader vision in life. In moments of hardship, it's easy to become consumed by immediate frustrations and lose perspective. However, when we focus on our long-term goals and purpose, we see challenges differently. Instead of perceiving them as obstacles, we begin to see them as stepping stones to growth. For instance, a professional setback might feel discouraging in the moment, but with a broader perspective, it can be seen as an opportunity to develop new skills or reassess career goals. Likewise, personal struggles can build resilience, deepen emotional intelligence, and foster a greater appreciation for life's highs and lows. By maintaining a big-picture perspective, we transform difficulties into valuable life lessons. One of the greatest benefits of embracing willingness is the sense of freedom it creates. Many people feel trapped in their circumstances, but often, what truly confines them is their own mindset. When we accept what is outside our control and focus on what is within our power, we reclaim our agency. For example, if we cannot change a difficult boss or a global crisis, we can still control our attitude, reactions, and choices. This realization leads to empowerment rather than victimhood. The more we practice this mindset, the more we experience freedom from unnecessary worry, frustration, and fear. Every challenge presents an opportunity to grow stronger, wiser, and more resilient. When we approach difficulties with a willingness to learn rather than resist, we expand our capabilities. Hardships become teachers rather than burdens. Ultimately, embracing willingness leads to a life of greater peace, purpose, and personal growth. By accepting reality, keeping a broad vision, and focusing on what we can control, we unlock the true freedom to navigate life with grace and strength. Stop judging others. Judging others is a common human tendency, often arising from personal biases, experiences, or societal conditioning. While it may seem harmless or even instinctual, habitual judgment can create unnecessary emotional burdens, fostering negativity, resentment, and division. By shifting toward empathy and understanding, individuals can experience greater inner peace, improve relationships, and cultivate a more compassionate outlook on life. Choosing not to judge does not mean excusing harmful behavior, rather, it means refusing to allow negativity to consume one's thoughts and emotions. When individuals engage in judgmental thinking, they carry an emotional burden that ultimately affects their own well-being more than the person they are judging. Judgment often stems from comparison, criticism, or personal insecurities, leading to feelings of frustration, superiority, or even bitterness. These emotions create internal stress and dissatisfaction, making it harder to experience contentment and emotional balance. For example, if someone constantly criticizes a coworker's work ethic, they may spend unnecessary time and energy harboring frustration rather than focusing on their own growth. Letting go of judgment allows individuals to free themselves from these negative emotions and cultivate a sense of peace. Choosing not to judge others opens the door to greater empathy and understanding. Everyone has unique experiences, struggles, and challenges that shape their behavior. Instead of making quick judgments, considering another person's perspective fosters a deeper awareness of the complexity of human nature. For instance, if a friend becomes distant or irritable, an immediate judgment might be that they are being rude or unkind. However, taking a step back and considering that they might be dealing with personal difficulties allows for a more compassionate response. Empathy strengthens relationships, builds trust, and creates a more supportive environment for both individuals involved. One of the common misconceptions about avoiding judgment is that it means condoning or excusing bad behavior. However, this is not the case. It is possible to acknowledge a person's actions without allowing them to negatively impact one's emotional state. For example, if someone is treated unfairly by a colleague, they can recognize the inappropriate behavior without holding on to anger or resentment. Instead of allowing the situation to consume their thoughts, they can set boundaries and choose constructive responses while maintaining their own peace of mind. This approach fosters emotional intelligence and prevents unnecessary negativity from taking control. Letting go of judgment leads to greater emotional freedom. When people stop focusing on the flaws and mistakes of others, they redirect their energy toward their own growth and happiness. This shift in focus fosters self-awareness, positivity, and a deeper sense of fulfillment. Additionally, non-judgmental attitudes encourage more harmonious interactions with others. People who feel accepted and understood are more likely to reciprocate kindness and understanding, leading to stronger and more meaningful connections. Stopping judgment is a powerful practice that enhances personal well-being and fosters a more compassionate and peaceful approach to life. By letting go of unnecessary criticism and cultivating empathy, individuals free themselves from emotional burdens and strengthen their relationships. This does not mean ignoring harmful behavior but rather choosing to respond with understanding rather than negativity. In the end, embracing non-judgment leads to a more fulfilling and emotionally balanced life, allowing people to focus on what truly matters: growth, connection, and inner peace. Let go of control. Control is an illusion that many people struggle with. While it is natural to want stability and predictability, the truth is that external events and other people's actions are beyond our control. Clinging to the idea that we can dictate every outcome leads to frustration, stress, and disappointment. Instead, focusing on our own reactions and mindset allows us to navigate life with greater peace, resilience, and freedom. Learning to accept what we cannot change and directing our energy toward what we can influence is a transformative approach that enhances both mental and emotional well-being. Many people experience anxiety because they try to control things that are inherently uncontrollable: other people's opinions, unexpected life events, or even societal changes. When things don't go as planned, frustration and helplessness can set in, creating emotional distress. For instance, trying to control how others behave in a relationship can lead to constant disappointment. No matter how much effort is put into guiding or influencing someone, their actions are ultimately their own. Similarly, obsessing over external circumstances, such as job security or economic downturns, only adds to stress without changing the outcome. Recognizing this truth helps shift our focus away from the uncontrollable and toward a healthier, more effective way of responding. Rather than trying to manipulate external circumstances, a more productive approach is to focus on what is within our control: our reactions, mindset, and choices. This shift empowers individuals to take charge of their own well-being rather than feeling powerless in the face of uncertainty. For example, while we cannot control traffic delays, we can control how we respond to them. Instead of becoming frustrated and impatient, we can use the extra time to listen to music, practice deep breathing, or reflect on our day. Likewise, in situations of conflict, we cannot dictate how the other person reacts, but we can choose to respond with patience, understanding, and assertiveness rather than anger. Letting go of control requires a level of acceptance. Accepting that uncertainty is a natural part of life reduces stress and increases resilience. It allows people to embrace change rather than resist it. Acceptance does not mean passivity or giving up, it means recognizing reality as it is and making peace with it. This mindset frees up mental energy that would otherwise be wasted on frustration, allowing individuals to focus on solutions and personal growth instead. By letting go of control, we free ourselves from unnecessary burdens. Instead of feeling weighed down by worry, we experience a greater sense of ease and adaptability. Life becomes less about rigid expectations and more about embracing the present moment. In a world that often values perfection, many people struggle with accepting flaws, both in themselves and in others. The expectation of perfection creates unnecessary stress, disappointment, and frustration. However, recognizing that imperfection is a natural and inevitable part of life allows individuals to cultivate patience, resilience, and inner peace. Rather than resisting flaws, embracing them opens the door to growth, deeper connections, and a more fulfilling life. Perfectionism can be an exhausting mindset. When people expect flawlessness from themselves or others, they set themselves up for disappointment. No one is perfect. Mistakes, setbacks, and imperfections are a natural part of being human. For example, a perfectionist might feel immense frustration when a project doesn't turn out exactly as envisioned or when a loved one makes a mistake. This rigid expectation leads to unnecessary stress, strained relationships, and even self-criticism. Over time, perfectionism can cause burnout and dissatisfaction because the goal of perfection is never truly attainable. When people accept imperfection, they develop resilience. Instead of being thrown off by unexpected challenges, they learn to adapt and find solutions. This mindset allows for greater flexibility and emotional stability. For instance, in a work setting, a person who embraces imperfection can handle constructive criticism with an open mind instead of feeling discouraged. They see mistakes as opportunities for growth rather than as personal failures. Similarly, in relationships, accepting that people have flaws fosters understanding, forgiveness, and stronger connections. Expecting perfection from others often leads to judgment and frustration. People may feel let down when loved ones don't meet unrealistic standards. However, shifting one's perspective to see flaws as a part of human nature can foster deeper empathy and patience. For example, if a friend forgets an important date or a coworker makes a mistake, choosing understanding over frustration leads to a healthier and more positive interaction. When imperfection is embraced, relationships become more forgiving and supportive rather than tense and critical. Letting go of the need for perfection creates a sense of freedom. People become less burdened by unrealistic expectations and more appreciative of life's natural flow. This shift allows for greater self-acceptance, creativity, and personal fulfillment. When individuals accept their own imperfections, they experience reduced anxiety and increased self-confidence. They understand that flaws do not define them but rather contribute to their uniqueness and growth. This self-acceptance, in turn, allows them to extend the same grace to others. Taking responsibility for your feelings. Emotions play a powerful role in shaping our experiences, influencing our decisions, and determining how we interact with the world. However, many people fall into the trap of believing that external circumstances or other people are responsible for their emotions. In reality, we have the power to control how we react to situations. By taking responsibility for our feelings, we develop emotional resilience, improve our relationships, and gain a greater sense of inner peace. It's easy to blame others for our feelings, thinking that someone made us angry, sad, or frustrated. But emotions are not caused by external events alone, they are shaped by our interpretations and reactions. two people can experience the same situation but respond entirely differently based on their mindset and emotional habits. For example, if a coworker criticizes your work, you might feel offended and upset, while another person might see it as constructive feedback. The difference lies not in the event itself but in the way it is perceived and processed. Recognizing this truth gives us the power to shift our emotional responses. One of the most effective ways to take responsibility for your emotions is by practicing self-awareness and pausing before reacting. When something triggers a strong emotional response, taking a moment to breathe and reflect can prevent impulsive reactions that may lead to regret or unnecessary conflict. For instance, instead of immediately reacting with anger when someone says something hurtful, you can pause and ask yourself, "Why am I feeling this way? Is this about the current situation, or is it linked to past experiences? What is the best way to respond in alignment with my values?" This simple act of self-reflection allows you to respond intentionally rather than being controlled by your emotions. We all have emotional patterns, automatic ways we react to certain situations based on past experiences and conditioning. By identifying these patterns, we can work toward changing them. For example, if you notice that you often feel defensive when receiving feedback, you might reflect on why that happens. Perhaps it stems from a fear of failure or past criticism that made you feel unworthy. Once you recognize the root cause, you can consciously choose a different response, one that is more constructive and less emotionally reactive. When we take responsibility for our emotions, we free ourselves from the control of others. No longer are we at the mercy of how people treat us or what happens around us. Instead, we become the creators of our own emotional experience. This doesn't mean suppressing feelings, it means acknowledging them, understanding them, and choosing how to respond. Over time, this practice leads to greater emotional intelligence, healthier relationships, and a deeper sense of peace. Taking responsibility for your feelings is a transformative step toward emotional maturity and personal growth. By recognizing that emotions are shaped by our own interpretations, practicing mindfulness before reacting, and reflecting on emotional patterns, we gain control over our inner world. This shift empowers us to navigate life with greater resilience, freedom, and clarity, ultimately leading to a more fulfilling and balanced life. In life, we will face challenges, disappointments, and moments of uncertainty. But through the principles of Stoicism, we can learn to navigate them with wisdom, resilience, and inner peace. Embracing willingness allows us to accept life as it is rather than resisting what we cannot change. Letting go of control helps us focus on our own actions instead of external circumstances. When we accept imperfection, we free ourselves from unrealistic expectations and approach life with greater patience and understanding. Taking responsibility for our feelings reminds us that our emotions are within our control. We choose how we react, rather than letting situations dictate our state of mind. By practicing these principles, we cultivate a mindset of strength and clarity. Instead of being ruled by fear, frustration, or disappointment, we develop the ability to respond with reason, calmness, and purpose. Life will always present difficulties, but our power lies in how we choose to face them. Thank you for watching. If you found this video insightful, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more wisdom on Stoicism and personal growth. And remember, true freedom comes from mastering yourself, not the world around you. Stay strong, stay present, and keep growing.